Okay, hi everyone. I think all of you know me. My name, for few people I see that I don't know, my name is Sagar Homayounpour and I teach computer science at New Berlin West High School. We are excited to have Rebecca Dalton here from CyberPatriot program joining us to talk about the program, introduce the program, and probably answer our questions. My students joined the program 4 years ago. They absolutely love it. They have been attending the competitions for the last 4 years. They learned a lot. They really have fun with it. So we thought that that would be a good opportunity for other teachers who may want to introduce the course, it's cybersecurity as a course, or run a club. Maybe we have the answers for you. Rebecca?
Sure, thank you. And thank you for taking the time this evening to join. Really happy that I have this opportunity to tell you more about CyberPatriot. I actually born in Wisconsin, have family in Wisconsin still, and would love to see more participation in the state. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. Here we go. So just a little history on CyberPatriot itself. It's actually a program of the Air Force Association. So AFA is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Back when it first started, it was focused on strong air power, strong national security. Today, still kind of the same, but CyberPatriot came to be because of the national security piece to it. Not enough students are pursuing STEM education, which has become a national security issue, and I'll get to that in a second. But CyberPatriot essentially is a cyber education program, and the whole goal is to excite students and motivate them towards STEM education and STEM careers. Common misconception is that we're like a hacking competition. We are not hacker training. Cyber ethics is always the first lesson that we teach, and there's no hacking tolerated at all. So if we find that any students are doing anything unethical or doing any offensive activity, there's grounds for penalties or disqualification. We also are not a recruiting tool for the military or the government. People see Air Force Association tied to our name and they think we're part of the military. We are not. Obviously, if a student wants to go into the military or work for the federal government, that is totally fine. They certainly need cybersecurity experts, but this is a program that is designed to just build a strong cyber workforce for any type of industry. I will say we do probably have a higher percentage of students who end up in the military, but that's because we have a big focus on junior ROTC and Civil Air Patrol students that are participating in those programs. So as I mentioned, the need for cyber education, I'm sure you're all aware of the need, but here's some quick stats, and this is based on a 2018 testing, which is the US is 30th in math and 11th in science. And a small percentage of high school students are actually prepared for college level coursework in STEM. So we want to change that and really get the students interested in learning about cybersecurity from an early age. And what you'll see is that we actually have programs from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And then we have a program for senior citizens and a volunteer program, which is our newest program we recommend students 14 and older. Really anyone 14 and older can participate. And I'll go into these a little more. The two I'm going to focus on the most are the National Youth Cyber Defense Competition and our AFA Cyber Camps. Those are our two largest programs. They're also focused on high school and middle school participation. So I think that's probably where most of you are involved. So that's where I'm going to focus the attention for this presentation. So the skills offered across all the programs really, it's pretty obvious there are technical skills that's important, computing and networking principles, foundational cybersecurity principles, but where we really like to highlight are the non-technical skills. Oftentimes the students who are interested in cybersecurity and computer science aren't typically your varsity quarterbacks or your girls basketball team. It's is students who tend to be a little more to themselves and don't have that opportunity to work on a team. So CyberPatriot offers that. We teach cyber ethics, leadership, and teamwork are really valuable skills that students learn from their participation, along with creative and analytical problem solving. So that's really what we think is arguably more important, some of those softer skills than the technical skills themselves. So the first program, and actually at one point, CyberPatriot was only a National Youth Cyber Defense Competition. So this is our oldest program, started in 2009. And we are in our 14th season of competition, which is wrapping up in March, next month, a couple weeks from now. But it is a nationwide competition that challenges the students to find and fix cybersecurity vulnerabilities within a variety of virtual operating systems. So it's essentially year-round, and I'll get into the schedule a little bit later. But any coach, parent, youth organization leader can register a team. They add students to their roster, anywhere from 2 to 6 students per team. And then they find, if they want, this is optional, they find a technical mentor or team assistant to kind of help with some of the training. The training is provided by CyberPatriot. So we offer 12 training modules that can be accessed year-round. And then there are also 4 practice rounds that are available for a limited time throughout the summer and into early fall. And we also give access to Cisco's Networking Academy for all registered coaches, students, and technical mentors. So that's a huge benefit to participating in CyberPatriot, is that the students do learn a lot about Cisco and they get access to the entire Networking Academy. Once the training is complete, we kind of lead into the competition itself, which pretty much is 1 weekend a month from October through January. There's at least 3 scored online rounds. If your team does well, they can advance to a 4th online round, but everyone's guaranteed 3 online rounds. Basically, they earn points for how well they secure this virtual operating system, and then the top teams will advance, hopefully, to the national finals. I have a little demo for you in a minute, but let me explain the team roles first. So as I mentioned, every team must have a coach. This is an adult leader. I would say the large majority of our teams are school-based. So a teacher is usually the coach, but we've had schools where there's no teacher willing to be a coach, so a parent can coach as long as they get approval from the school. And they are responsible for registering the teams, making sure they follow all the rules outlined in the rules book, and they also have to be present during the competition rounds. The technical mentor is usually somebody from outside of the organization that is volunteering their time to support local teams. So they go through a background check because they are working with minors. And then they can reach out to coaches, or coaches can reach out to them. We have a whole database that coaches can access of registered mentors. And basically we let the coach and the mentor work out schedules on how often can they help, what are their areas of expertise, and so on. That is huge a lot of times, especially for first year teams or teams where the coach isn't entirely confident in covering all of the training modules. We've had a music teacher that his team made it to national finals, English teacher, French teacher. They've all done very well in the competition because they've found these technical mentors who are extremely helpful. We also have a team assistant role, which is a non-technical volunteer. Think of it as like a classroom parent or somebody who wants to volunteer to take on more of the administrative and logistical tasks, like scheduling practices or ordering the pizza and the drinks for competition round. So these people also have to complete a background check because they too are usually from outside the school. But that is just another role for people who are wanting to participate without having the cyber background. Here is a screenshot of what a competition image looks like. An image is just the virtual operating system that's purposely filled with cybersecurity flaws. The teams have 6 hours on a competition weekend to go in and find and fix as many of these vulnerabilities as they can. They obviously earn points for some changes or they lose points if they make the system less secure. I will say not every like vulnerability is scored. So you might do something that makes, or the students might do something that makes the system more secure, but unless it's an actual scored vulnerability, they won't, get points. So it forces them to go through the entire checklist of, what do we need to do to really, lock down this network while still keeping critical services running. The images we typically have students challenge on are Windows, server images, Ubuntu, and Debian. And they get progressively harder as you go through the rounds. The first round, it's some pretty basic, some basic checks that they need to fix. And, by the fourth round, it's, and I'm not technical, I'm more of the promotion person here, so I can't even really get into it. But in addition to the images, they have Cisco Neticat quizzes and a packet tracer exercise where they're configuring a virtual network. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our demonstration software, and right after this, I'll send you all. Well, actually, let me do it while I'm thinking of it. Well, maybe not. I'll send you the link to access this software, but this is a demonstration software, so it doesn't require internet or anything to run. You can just download the small packet, and but this simulates essentially what a competition looks like. So when students open up an image and they use VMware Workstation Player to do this, the first thing they do is go to the README file. The README file gives a scenario for the round, and it talks about a forensics question that they have to answer. It gives a scenario here. It's the computer policy, or the company's policy requires that all accounts are password protected. Let's see what else. Business use only by authorized users. Non-work related media files are prohibited. So this gives them some hints of like, okay, I think I know, where I should be looking and what things might need to be fixed. If you scroll down a little further, you see they provide a list of authorized administrators and users. So okay, what users are administrators and what users are just standard users. So they'll go through this, and then then they can start kind of working through the image. So this kind of guides you through it as you're going. So we're going to go to control panel, and we know it mentioned user accounts, and it said that all users had to have passwords. So we see, okay, password protected. We continue to scroll down. We see, oh, Rory does not have a password. So if we want to change the password, set a password, then we can do that. And hopefully I typed in the same password for both. Okay, so now we've updated the password, and hopefully we earn points for doing this. And there we go. It says you get a notification that says you gain points. So another really key part of these virtual images are the scoring reports. So there's live scoring going on while you're doing this. So the teams know exactly how many points they have, how many vulnerabilities in the image they have successfully found, and what that vulnerability was and how many points it was worth. If you were to unfix or break something or do something you weren't supposed to do, there is a chance you could lose points. But in the live competition rounds, there's also a public scoreboard, so the teams can see how they're doing against the rest of the teams competing at the same time across the country. So I will provide the link to that. Let me send that now while I'm thinking of it. And basically, it's a Google form that you fill out. And the only reason you fill out the form is so that we can kind of gauge how many people are using the demonstration software. It's more of a metrics thing for us. But you fill out the form, and at the end, once you submit it, you'll get a link to the actual software download. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. It's really useful, especially when you're trying to explain to students, what the competition is all about, because sometimes it can be a little difficult to explain. So the typical schedule for the competition, we say it's a year-round thing. The bulk of it is during the first, 3/4 of the school year. So it's April, registration opens, and we encourage you to create a team. sooner rather than later. If you register before July 1st, you get a 20% discount. You don't have to pay right away. You don't have to know who your competitors are going to be. You don't have to register them right away. So you basically are just reserving your spot for the upcoming competition. But what that gives you access to are all those online training modules and the practice rounds that take place throughout the summer months. So it just gives you a little more time to kind of get a feel for it, what all goes into setting up for the competition, what all software is required. And we provide the software that you'll need free of charge. We'll give you all the links for that. But the more you can kind of get practicing and see what the images look like, the less stressed I think you'll be actually facilitating the competition. It is a little overwhelming, especially for first year coaches. So if you ever have any questions, please reach out to us. But we do recommend registering sooner rather than later. And if you decide, hey, maybe this isn't for me, or you don't get enough traction within the school and with the students, you can remove your team. I mean, you don't have to pay right away. So there's really no harm to signing up early. But like I said, through the summer months, there are 2 exhibition rounds, and then we have a training round and a practice round in September and October. The actual scored rounds begin in usually mid to late October, and it's one weekend. You choose whatever 6-hour time frame you want to compete on that weekend. You don't have to tell us, you just log into the images, and we kind of know who's on based on a unique identifier that their teams are required to enter. So everyone's guaranteed round 1, round 2, and the state round. And then the semifinal round is roughly the top 25% of teams. And then hopefully, your team does well enough and they advance to the in-person national finals competition. The finals is held in Bethesda, Maryland. And it is actually going to be in person partially this year. Some teams are still competing remotely, but we are excited to be back in person after 2-year hiatus because of coronavirus. So that is the typical schedule. This is for the current competition. We will be publishing one for next year, but it would look probably something very similar to this. The competition itself is split into 3 divisions. So depending on what kind of students are competing, it depends. That kind of indicates what division they're going to end up in. And the teams are only scored within their specific division. So the open division is general high school population. You can see listed there what kind of organizations would fall into that. And it's $205 per team. If you sign up before July 1st, it's a 20% discount. But we do waive fees for any Title I school or any team that's an all-girls team. And we do that to attract more young women to STEM because it's a little skewed, the ratio of men to women. So that is the largest division that we have. That's probably about 60% of our teams. The all-service division is also a high school division, but it's specific for students who are participating in junior ROTC, Civil Air Patrol, or Naval Sea Cadet Corps. Those fees for those teams are waived as long as all of the students are part of that specific program, because we have an agreement with their headquarters, so they don't have to pay a fee. And then we have the middle school division, which is typically grades 6 through 8. And their fees are $165 per team, with the same waivers applying for Title I and all-girl teams. Here's a chart of our participation in years past. In 2009, which was our pilot season, we had 8 teams participating, and you can see we've just really taken off since then. We maxed out at about 6,700 teams in 2019, and then the pandemic hit, so you can see it kind of dropped off, and that was because schools were canceling after-school activities, going virtual, so it was just a little more difficult to facilitate. But we're hoping that the curve starts going back up again. Our competition and kind of our camps as well operates at about 31% female participation and close to 50% minority participation. So we do try to focus on female organizations to get them involved, and we try to recruit from urban areas. We have a big population competing in Los Angeles, also in San Antonio. But like I said, teams can participate from anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, really. We had, at one point, we had some teams in Australia, which proved to be a little difficult with the time change, but that was cool. So, and program effectiveness. So I always like to show this information because, you know, it's easy to talk about a program, but it's like, well, is it actually working? So like I said, our goal is to attract students to STEM education. And every 2 years we do a survey. We ask current and past CyberPatriot participants, you know, what are your plans after high school? If you're out of high school, you know, what are you doing now? Because we want to know if they're in STEM education. So of our students that are still in high school and middle school, 75% of them say that they plan to pursue STEM education, which is very high compared to the 20% national average. And of our students that have already graduated high school and are, you know, are no longer in CyberPatriot, 84% are studying a STEM field or working in a STEM field. And we know correlation doesn't always equal causation. So we ask, well, what role did CyberPatriot play in you know, your decision to take this route? 85% said that CyberPatriot had a positive impact on their decision to pursue STEM. So that's what we want to see. And that also helps when people are looking to get involved, especially sponsors, that helps bring sponsors on board too. And sponsors mean, you know, we can do more with the program. So it's always good to see that. As far as actually getting involved in the competition, I mean, we encourage you, if you have the time and if you have the interest from students, to become a coach, a mentor, a team assistant, and start a team at your school. If you can't do that, then maybe you can support a local team and help fund their registration fees or donate equipment or just offer a place for them to compete, give a computer lab, or just, you know, even if you can't do it, just spread the word to local schools in your area. You know, maybe you have a friend who's a teacher or what. But we're always just, we don't have a huge, I mean, we're a small staff, we're a staff of 9, and we don't have a huge budget to run this or to market. So we really rely heavily on word of mouth. So presentations like this are super helpful. So I appreciate the time. We also have, like I said, our national finals competition. With most of you being in Wisconsin, I'm guessing you're not gonna travel on 3 weeks notice to the finals, but we do typically live stream our awards banquet. So if you're interested in just kind of checking that out, that'll be on March 20th, the evening of March 20th, we'll have our awards banquet and it'll be streaming on our YouTube channel. So just kind of get a feel for what the finals looks like, the excitement around it. But yeah, that is the competition, and I'll take questions at the end, but I'm going to move right ahead into camps. So the competition is during the school year. The camps came about because teachers were like, well, how can we keep our students engaged beyond the school year? And we're like, well, the summer camp. So we created summer camps back in like 2016. But it's also designed for 6th through 12th grade students, and it's for students who are either just getting into cybersecurity and want to try it out, or for students who have maybe gone through CyberPatriot's competition or one of our beginner camps and want to, you know, expand on what they know. So registration right now, registration is happening right now for an organization to host a camp. So if an organization is interested in hosting a camp, they can sign up. And then what we do is send them the curriculum, and all they need to do is basically teach it. We give them basically step-by-step, here's how you facilitate this camp. So the organization itself is responsible for presenting the curriculum, recruiting and registering their students, and finding instructors. And if they're doing it in person, having the equipment available, but it can also be hosted virtually, which we found a lot of people have switched to, obviously during the pandemic. But they enjoy that they have a bigger reach when they host virtually, because they're not confined to just the number of computers that they have available for students. But the camps themselves take place June through August. So when you sign up, you pick 1 week that you are interested in teaching. The camp runs Monday through Friday. It's usually about 4 hours per day of instruction, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. On that Friday, the kids have to put everything that they learn together because they take part in a mini competition, one that very closely simulates the competition I just explained to you in the past slides. So We had about 300 camps registered for the past 2 years. We offer standard camps, which are the more popular of the two because I think it targets a bigger audience of students who are interested in learning about STEM, but standard camps are for the entire curriculum and everything you need to put the camp on. It's $1,150, and what it covers is cyber ethics, intro to cybersecurity, and virtual machines, and then you get into the basics of Windows 10 security, Ubuntu 18 security, and then again the mini. Advanced camps build on what is taught in the standard camps, and basically just it's more advanced. So it's advanced Windows 10 security, Ubuntu 18 security, and then also it includes a Cisco networking portion, which is part of the competition as well. So there's a whole day's worth of teaching on Cisco networking. That camp runs $1,450. So if you're interested in hosting a camp or even just want to learn more about it, there's more information on our website, but the deadline to register as a camp host is May 1st. So something to think about for sure. Some engagement opportunities with the camps, like I mentioned, you can register to host a camp. You can volunteer as a camp instructor or a classroom assistant if there's a camp going on in your area. Or you can just offer to support a local camp, whether that's a guest speaker, providing some equipment, however you can think to get involved. But again, the biggest and probably most effective engagement is just promoting the camps. If you can't host one, maybe some friends who can, and then that's always super helpful. So those, backtrack, those are the two, the biggest programs that we have, the competition and the camps. I'm going to quickly run through just some of our other programs geared toward a younger audience. We have an elementary school initiative, kindergarten through 5th grade is the focus, and it's basically just making them aware of, why is it important to be safe when you're online. It's free to download. Anyone can go on our site and download it, and it's 3 games. And you can see the games here. One teaches the importance of protecting personal information. Jeff OS teaches kind of what an operating system is and how a file system works and threats of like clicking on random links and what malware is. And then there's Packet Protector, which introduces the students to network security. This is probably my favorite of the 3. I've played all 3, but they build their own little network and they get cryptocurrency for how secure it is. So like the currency will travel through the network, but it'll block the viruses and the worms and whatever else. So they use the cryptocurrency that they earn building their network to buy better equipment to build an even more secure network. So that's fun in a game that they can kind of play over and over. But like I said, free to download. So if you know anyone in the market, we say teachers can kind of go through it as a class, or they can recommend it to parents to go through at home. It's pretty self-explanatory to go through. So and it's good. It's a good way to introduce students. Since students, the youngest kids, I have a 2-year-old nephew, and I mean he knows how to work a phone just as good as anybody else. So it's important that they're learning from a young age. The other elementary school program we have is our literature series. We have 2 books that are available for purchase. Both were written by CyberPatriot staff members. I'm not an author of either, but some of my colleagues have written these books. We have Sarah the Cyber Hero and Ben the Cyber Defender, and they both follow these kind of cyber whiz kids who are really interested in cybersecurity, and they end up helping save their friends and their families and their neighborhoods from cyber disasters. So kind of cool stories. The books are available for purchase on Amazon and BookBaby, so I definitely recommend checking those out if you can. And then on the completely other end of the spectrum, we have the Cyber Generations program, which is targeted at senior citizens. This program actually came to be when the head of CyberPatriot got a call from his, I think she was like 92-year-old mother at the time. And she said, Bernard, I have a man on the phone from Microsoft. He says something's wrong with my computer and he needs my username and password. And he said, do not hang up. Don't tell that person anything. And he's like, we need something for senior citizens who really aren't confident using a computer, don't know what scams are out there. So we came up with a program called Cyber Generations. It's a free program, and it can be presented in one of two ways. Self-paced guide, which is a self-paced PDF that any individual can access and read through at their own pace to cover certain cybersecurity topics. The topics are listed here on the slide: password management, online threats, marketing and fraud scams, social media awareness, and then probably most importantly, victim support resources. If they do actually fall victim to one of these scams, who do they call and what do they do? So that's a really important piece of the guide. The workshop, or I'm sorry, the Cyber Generation program can also be presented as a workshop. And that truly was like the intention of it initially. We haven't hosted too many workshops because of the pandemic, and we really don't want to be gathering large groups of elderly people together in a room for safety reasons. So, but hopefully as things open back up, we have more workshops, but anyone can really, any organization interested in hosting a workshop can request the workshop resources from us. It includes PowerPoint presentations and instructor guides. And then they work usually with like a local senior center to facilitate the event. So people sign up to attend, they go, and you can choose how you want to present it. It can be, all in one day. It can be over a couple of weeks if you want to just shorten it and do little pieces of the workshop at a time. But we also have a virtual workshop available on our website. When people weren't gathering in person, we had one of our staff members record a workshop essentially so that people can go through it from their home. So if it's kind of a combination of the self-paced guide and the workshop. So that is Cyber Generations, like I said, free for anyone to download and facilitate in their local areas. And going along with that is our newest program. Stuck here. So here we go. Our newest program. We just launched it a few months ago. It's called Tech Caregivers. It's a free certification program, and it allows students and adult volunteers for to support vulnerable populations like the senior citizens going through Cyber Generations. It's a really good community service opportunity. So we really encourage high school students, especially, to become tech caregivers. The whole point of it is they go through training that covers the same topics that are covered in the Cyber Generations. Then they take a certification exam. It's usually like 45 questions, takes maybe 30 minutes to complete. If they pass, they're issued certification, and then they're basically encouraged to go out and find the local senior centers or just some older individuals that need one-on-one sessions with cybersecurity help or just computer use help. And the premise is the younger generations who have the skills, the cybersecurity skills, are you putting those skills to good use in their communities to help protect other vulnerable populations. So this has been pretty popular. We kind of launched it at a weird time where still things weren't open, but we had at least 500 or 600 people already become certified. So we're really hoping to see that take off once everything is back to normal. Yeah, so that's our last program. This slide just shows our sponsors. CyberPatriot is funded primarily by the Northrop Grumman Foundation. They're a presenting sponsor, but we also have huge amounts of support coming in from AT&T, Boeing, Cisco, Leidos, Gannon University's offering full scholarships to the winners of the national finals this year if they choose to attend. So some really great supporters here. So we always try to recognize them when we can. So yeah, that is the end of my presentation. And I saw there was one question in the chat, so let me address that. The question is from Olivia. She says, I'm from a small school and I have but one student interested. What's the best option for someone without a team? So that's a great question. We get that a lot where it's maybe like a homeschooled student or just someone from a school and they're like, I don't have a teacher that wants to sign up. I can't do this. We do allow some composite teams in certain situations. So in your case, because it's just one student who's interested, they could find another team in the area that that's willing to take them on. Otherwise, a camp would be good if there's one being hosted. I wouldn't recommend putting on an entire camp for one student, but because a lot more camps have switched to the virtual facilitation, they are accepting of more students, especially from outside their areas. So in the beginning of May, once host registration for the camps has finished, we publish a list of where the camps are being hosted. And it's on the camp to, take questions from interested participants. So we really don't know much about how the camps are facilitating, but they usually provide contact information. So if there's a camp in your area, that student can certainly attend.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Rebecca, regarding the summer camp, do the students need any equipment besides like the laptops, computers? Do they need the virtual machine installed on the computers?
So they would. So for every camp, the camp basically requires the same amount of technical resources as the competition. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our website, and I'll show you the technical specifications. So what would happen is the camp coordinator is the person who signs up the camp. When it's like 3 weeks out from their camp, they get all the information that they need to run the camp. So we send them links to download all the software. We send them links to download all the virtual images. And if they're hosting it virtually, we say, forward this to all of your participants, because we don't have participant information. That's the responsibility of the host to collect and keep. But basically, it requires a 64-bit operating system and these pieces of software: WinMD5, 7-zip, VM workstation player, and if it's an advanced camp, Cisco packet tracer would also be needed. But the hardware requirements, we try to make them modest. It's getting a little more difficult as technology progresses. But we recommend, like I said, a 64-bit processor, 8 gigs of RAM, and 40 gigs of free disk space. And we aren't running multiple virtual images at a time, so that is always helpful. It puts less strain on the host machine. But we do try to give the information as far in advance as possible so that some troubleshooting can happen if a student is struggling to get set up. How can a coach actually do a virtual machine activity like that in a competition? So another great question. The virtual machines they're available on a limited basis. So we have that demonstration software that I showed you during the presentation. That's good for just getting kids interested, but you want them to actually go through a real image and get scored and not have the walkthrough. So we offer those, and go back to my screen here. Anywhere where you see like a white square, so exhibition rounds, the training rounds, practice round, those are all times where there is a live virtual machine that people can go through. So that's why we encourage coaches or people interested in being a coach to just sign up right away so that you do get access to those exhibition rounds. That gives you time to go through it yourself before you are thrown into having to go through it with students, and like you're not scrambling because you've gone through it already, so I hope that answers that question. And I will say, so like these images expire. So like this one that says it goes till June 18th. So basically at midnight, June 18th, the image kind of self-destructs. So if you try to log back into it on the 19th, it's not going to work. So we do recommend you take full advantage of the timeframes when images are being offered. The team size for the competition is anywhere from 2 to 6 students. If you have a team of 6, one student is identified as an alternate competitor, and the alternate can change from round to round. So we say an ideal team size is 5 people. That means all 5 students can compete at one time. And what we recommend is at least 3 computers per team. But if you have enough resources to have one computer per person, that is ideal. The rule in the competition states that you can only have one copy of a virtual image open at, you know, the same at one time. So let me find. Okay, so let's say we're in a round that has a Windows image, a server image, and an Ubuntu image. You have computers 1, 2, and 3. On computer 1, you can have a Windows image open. On computer 2, you can have a server image open. And on computer 3, you can have an Ubuntu image open. If you add computer 4, you can't open any more images on there because you already have one copy of each image running. If you were to open a second copy of the Windows image on computer 4, that is grounds for a penalty. So you're only allowed one active virtual machine of each operating system at a time. So we usually say about 3 because that's usually how many images there are in a round. But if you can have a 4th and 5th computer, that would let someone work on a Cisco component at the same time, and it would give a 5th computer for like Googling, you know, how to do something, because you can also use resources as long as they're publicly available to everyone. Chat. Okay, the next question is for the camp. The student cost is $1,150. So let me backtrack. The camp cost that I showed you, and I'm sorry, I did not make that clear. This is for the host. The host pays a one-time fee of $1,150 to host the camp. They can choose if they want to charge attendees to recover that cost. The only rule that we have is because we are a nonprofit, we ask that you don't use the camps as a for-profit activity. You can run it, you can charge students to attend to cover your cost, but you can also offer it for free if you want to. So the cost is only, it's the $1,100 or the $1,400 is only charged to the host. And that's the cost for basically the resources that we're providing for them to put on the camp. The next question, to participate in the exhibition, do registration fees have to be paid? No. So let me go back to our schedule here. We have a couple, any yellow box is kind of like a deadline or an opening. So registration closes usually the beginning of October. That's the last day to have your team registered in our system. You sign them up. Not until November 1st do you have to actually put students onto your roster. And not until the middle of November do you actually have to pay your team fees. Now, if you participate, if you know, and you can see like round 1 and round 2 are happening around then. If you participate in the round, then we're going to ask that you pay the fee if you haven't yet already. But if you sign up and, you know, round 1 goes by, round 2 goes by, and you don't participate and you want to cancel your team, then that's fine. You don't owe anything at that point. But we know how it can be for schools to cut checks and you have to go through the bookkeeper and all that. So we don't want to rush people into paying, especially because the beginning of the school year is a busy time. And you guys got a lot going on. So we try to be a little lenient on the payment deadline. The next question is the middle school competition similar to the high school competition? Yes, it is very similar. There's a few key differences. Let me find my. So one difference is the images are typically slightly easier. They're not quite as challenging because it's younger students. We don't expect them to know as much. The other thing is the way teams advance. So what I didn't get into, because it's a little confusing up front, so you don't really need to know this until you're actually participating, but in the open division and the open and all service divisions, the scores from round 1 and round 2 are added together for a cumulative score. And that score determines your placement for the state round, which is the 3rd and last guaranteed round. The top 30% of teams go on to the platinum tier. You know, I'm going to bring up a chart because I'm confusing myself just explaining this. Here. you'll be given all this, like if you sign up, all this information will be available to you. Okay, here we go. So for the open and all service division, you see teams participate in round 1 and round 2, and their scores are added together, and based on their cumulative scores, they're either put into the platinum tier, the gold tier, or the silver tier. And then for the remainder of the competition, teams are only competing at that skill level. We put that into place, oh gosh, probably 5 or 6 years ago at this point, because teams that were new were getting really discouraged that they were competing against all of these veteran teams that, like, you know, would fly through the rounds and knew what they were doing. So what we did was we were like, okay, let's split them into skill levels after the second round so that they're still, you know, it's still competitive and they're competing within their own skill level, but they're not like getting blown out by these other teams. You see the platinum tier, because they are the top, basically the cream of the crop here. They are the only tier that can actually advance to the national finals. Everyone else, their competition ends after the semifinal round, assuming they get that far. But it has been helpful, and we send state awards to eat within each tier. So like you can be in the silver tier, but you're still getting a certificate from us because you placed, you know, top in your state within your tier. So that is how it works for the open and all service division. The middle school division is not as complicated. It's pretty straightforward. We have rounds 1, 2, and 3, the state round. We add those 3 scores together. The top 50% of teams make it to the semifinal. The big cutoff though here is that only the top 3 middle school teams have a chance to make it to the national finals. We are restricted to only 28 teams from the 3 divisions going to finals because we're limited on space at the convention center where we host it. So here it's, let's go back. Open divisions, the top 12 platinum tier teams make it to finals. And then all service division, even more complicated. It's the top 2 teams per category. So the categories for all service division are these 6 listings here. So we, you know, it's guaranteed 2 Air Force Junior RTC teams will come, 2 from each service essentially. And that is kind of a legacy thing. And again, comes from an agreement we have with their headquarters. High school and middle school teams in Wisconsin, great question. We have a list on our website. You go to uscyberpatriot.org, right on the homepage. If you scroll down here, you see this little map with all these little pins here. You can look at a list of teams. So I can type in Wisconsin. Yeah. So you can either look by here, by the map, or you can click here to actually download a list of teams. So once registration opens for the next season on April 1st, we'll probably refresh this list about weekly, but right now this is all of the teams that registered from this current CyberPatriot 14 season. I don't know the number off the top of my head, and I should have looked that up, I'm sorry, but if you want to take a look at the map and to see, you know, where the teams are located, you're more than welcome to. Let's see. Okay, question, can I enroll my 30 students in a cybersecurity class in the academy during our last trimester? Okay, Cisco, the Cisco Networking Academies, can you enroll your students? I'll have to get back to you on that. From my understanding, it's the students have to be registered like in our system. So it starts March 21st. Yeah, I mean, you could actually, no. So I'm sorry. I'm trying to think how Cisco works. We have a gentleman who's kind of the Cisco expert, but it's my understanding that for a new season, when a new season starts like in April, registration starts, but it's not until usually September, early September, late August, that students are actually given to the academy, given access to the Cisco Academy courses. And that's because they're refreshing them each year. So Cisco has to like get all of our information from our like registrants and then upload it because there's a special way that they do it. So I will find out Mary, I'll get your email address, or why don't you send me an email? Let me just type my email address in here for everyone. So that you can contact me if you need to. Or info, I'll send this one to info@uscyberpatriot.org. That's always a good one to contact us as well. There's like 4 of us that manage the inbox. So, okay. Another question: will there ever be? Oh wait, sorry, I missed one. Can you review training materials, curriculum that CyberPatriot offers? We are looking to start a cybersecurity course. Yes, so you can view the those 12 training modules that I mentioned. If you just go to our website and create a volunteer account, well, actually, let me backtrack. You can access really old versions under the competition tab. The bottom sub option is training materials. You can access some training materials there. Those are pretty dated. If you want to access the current ones, you go to register. You fill out this form to create a volunteer account. And once you create your account, you go up to competition sign in and use your username and password. Your username is your email address, username and password to sign in. And then on the dashboard, you will see a list of training modules. So you can look at those, and there's no, like, you don't have to pay or anything to create an account. That's free. Let's see, another question. Will there ever be a camp or professional development for coaches or teachers to learn the concepts of CyberPatriot that students encounter in the competition? Excellent question. We get that question a lot. We've tried. We don't necessarily have just the bandwidth to do that because our staff is so small. We do have like a new coach workshop that is more administrative, where it walks coaches through like how to get started in terms of registering and whatnot. So that's also available right online. You could look at that now, I believe. There's a new coaches resource option under the competition tab, and it kind of walks you through a new coach guide. There's also a video if you didn't want to flip through the PowerPoint. And it recommends that you access the demonstration software that I walked through, step-by-step instructions for registering, and then kind of where to begin. But it doesn't actually, what it doesn't do, which I wish it did, our competition staff who would be in charge of this type of training is so limited in their availability that it just hasn't really materialized. But it does recommend, like, go through the training modules, go through the Cisco Netiquette courses, practice with some of the competition and exhibition round images. And then it gives you instructions on how to actually set up your host machine for the competition. So that's as much as we offer right now. I'm hoping in the future we will offer some type of professional development, because that would be huge. A lot of times teams aren't able to actually compete because the coach just isn't ready, or they can't find a coach that's willing and knowledgeable. And I think that's the big part, is why we have that mentor network, technical mentors, because they kind of come in and do most of the actual teaching. The coach is more of an administrative figurehead at that point, which is fine. I mean, that works for a lot of teams. Sometimes the coach is the cyber expert, sometimes they're not. So it's all how you want to structure your team.
Rebecca, may I add something to it? When we started, I didn't know what to expect, what to do, and I didn't know anything about cyber security. So we requested for a mentor, and a young student, university student, became my student's mentor. The point is, you need to, if you decide to run a club or have a team for competitions, you need to request for the mentor really early. We requested sometime, I think beginning of October, and everybody else was taken. So if you plan to have a team, you probably need to look for a mentor, like request for a mentor way earlier than September, October.
That's a really
out of options.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, so in order to be able to request a mentor, you do have to have, you have to register your team, and you have to be approved. during the registration process, it's kind of like two parts. You register. When you register, you list a verification official. That's usually the principal at your school, just someone who could say, yes, this person works here, and yes, I'm okay if they compete, under our organization name. They verify you. We double check, our staff double checks your registration. If it looks all good, we say approved. You get an email saying your team is approved. At that point, from your coach's dashboard, you will be able to look through the mentor database. If you have a hard time finding, someone that's, someone to reply to you about being a mentor, you're not restricted to the mentors that are on that list. If you want to go down to the local university or, a local tech company and say, hey, I have this competition that I'm putting on for my students, I would really like if, someone could help us. They're more than welcome to just then quickly register as a mentor and you can add them. So you're not confined to the list. It is easy. I mean, it is nice that the list exists, but, it doesn't always, you don't always hear back from people, and we unfortunately control over that. So.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. This has been really good, really good.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you were able to join.
But before you leave, maybe we've got several people here, Carlos, Dion, Lynn, and Matt. Would you care to come on board and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourselves, and the rest of us that are on the leadership team, we could do the same thing. And I realize there was only a minute or two left, but I'd like to find out a little bit more about who we have here.
Yeah.
Anybody care to?
Well, I'm Dion Landgraf. I teach at Madison Academic Campus in Milwaukee Public Schools. And yeah, I've been really enjoying what you're offering. It sounds pretty exciting for our students. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
I'm Lynn Johnson. I teach in Stratford, Wisconsin. I just wanted to hear what this was all about. It sounded very interesting. And after watching it, I'm interested in talking with my students and see where the interest level is.
Good.
I'm Matt Kumershek. I teach in Brookfield Central and teach computer science and math there. And we're looking at offering different courses and new courses, and cybersecurity is definitely one that we want to pursue, and the competition and stuff you're talking about sounds really interesting, and I think a lot of our students would be interested in it. So thank you.
Now's a great time to, you're kind of ahead of the curve because registration opens April 1st. So you're in a good time to learn about it for sure.
Carlos?
Sure. I'm Carlos. I teach computer science and project lead the way at Hamilton High School. I just wanted to kind of increase our computer science base. Right now, we're just really more of multimedia and web development, web design and web development. I just want to add more computer science things like cybersecurity and networking into our program. So I'm just gathering information to present to those who are above.
Carlos and Lynn, I think the other two are members, for sure, are members of our Wisconsin Google group. Are you guys a member? Like, do you receive our notifications and stuff?
No.
Yes.
If you can't, Carlos, in particular, if you send me a message, Joe, Joe at jkmoch.com, or I can find you through Karen Green or whatever within MPS. I'd like to get you more involved, and hopefully everybody else is at least a part of our mailing list, because we'd like to be able to expand our offerings as far as meetings go and things like that, and get you and Lynn and Dion, and while Matt is already involved with the Marquette University Pump CS program and expand your offerings and stuff. And so, let's somehow connect all of us, and we can move forward on getting more computer science and mathematics, getting more computer science in Wisconsin schools and that kind of thing. That's great. Thank you.
That sounds great, Joe. You went through your email really, really fast, but if you can reach out and contact me, definitely I would sign up for it.
Yeah. Can you give me your now? I know it's at Milwaukee.mps and whatever, or Milwaukee.k12. Can you give me your the left side of the @ sign?
Sure, I can.
Or a Gmail address or anything else like that?
Oh, yeah, put it in the
Oh,
chat.
okay, good. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely connect with you real soon. Any other comments
I
from?
have one final comment that I left out, and this is probably more for the kids than maybe for you, but I don't know if you can see my shirt. This is one of many shirts that we've had through the years, but every registered coach, competitor, and mentor for the competition are given a t-shirt and a little challenge coin with the year on it. And that's something I think the kids really love. Who doesn't love a free shirt? But that is included in your registration fees. So if you can't get them with the idea of the competition, tell them there's a free shirt involved.
And thank you, Olivia, for putting my email address on the chat. I get so worked up on things that I can't even type anymore or whatever else like that. So, and I'm also interested in the senior citizen thing. Needless to say, I'm a senior citizen, and no, I'm seriously. I want to contact OSHA. I don't know if you're familiar with that project. It's in a lot of universities and stuff, but OSHA has courses for retirees, and they need to maybe take this or get involved with this kind of a thing. So I'm going to be talking to them sometime soon.
Awesome. Love to hear it.
Rebecca, thank you so much. It
Thank
was
you.
very informative. We loved having you here, and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Of course.
know
Thank
everybody's-
you all for, giving me the time. And like I said, if you have any questions, you have my email, you have the info email. So please don't hesitate to contact us. All right. Well, you all take care and have a good night.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
great
you.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.